Right now, on dealer lots across America, there are brand new electric vehicles that have been sitting unsold for over a year. Not broken, not recalled, in some cases, award-winning. Overall, EV sales in the United States dropped between 21 and 24% in the first half of 2026, and that collapse in demand has triggered something dealers do not want you to notice: discounts running as high as 28% off sticker price. So today, we are counting down the 6 brand new electric vehicles Americans are ignoring the hardest in 2026, and exactly why that rejection might make them the best deals of the year. Number 6, right now. Number 6 on our list is the Kia EV6. Here is the part that makes this one so strange. The Kia EV6 is not some forgotten, unloved product. This is a vehicle that walked away with major industry awards, that automotive journalists genuinely praised for its handling, its charging speed, and its interior quality. And yet, in the first half of 2026, sales of the EV6 fell by 34.2% compared to the year before. Then things got even worse in the summer. In July alone, sales cratered by somewhere between 37 and 48%, depending on which reporting period you look at. Total volume for the first half of the year landed at just around 4,717 units. For a vehicle this well reviewed, that is a shockingly small number. So why is nobody buying an award-winning electric car? The first reason is the disappearance of federal incentives, which hit every EV on this list, but hit mid-priced vehicles like the EV6 especially hard, because that $7,500 credit represented a meaningful chunk of the purchase price. The second reason is internal competition. Kia has been aggressively pushing cheaper electric options into the market, and shoppers who might have considered the EV6 are being pulled toward more affordable siblings instead. And the third reason, honestly, is the broader hybrid surge happening across Kia showrooms. Buyers who are nervous about range anxiety or charging infrastructure are quietly sliding back over to hybrid powertrains, and dealers are not exactly fighting that trend because hybrids are easier sells right now. Here is the hidden opportunity though. The EV6 is built on an 800-volt architecture, which means it can charge from a low battery to a substantial charge in a fraction of the time that older 400-volt systems require. We are talking about the kind of charging speed that genuinely rivals a gas station stop on a road trip. Range sits comfortably above 300 miles on higher trims. This is not a compromised first-generation attempt at an EV. This is a mature, refined vehicle that simply lost the marketing and incentive battle in 2026. As inventory builds on dealer lots, and it is starting to build, expect discounts to deepen throughout the rest of the year. The risk here is resale value uncertainty, since newer and cheaper EVs are flooding into the same price bracket, and a vehicle this well built could see steeper depreciation than its reputation deserves. Compared directly against the Tesla Model Y, the EV6 actually offers faster charging and, on certain trims, more usable range, but it simply cannot compete with the sheer brand gravity that Tesla commands in the American market. The brutal verdict here is this: the EV6 is proof that in 2026, being a genuinely great car is no longer enough to guarantee sales success in America. Number 5 on our list is the Chevrolet Equinox EV. This one stings a little more because just a short time ago, the Equinox EV was sitting inside the top 3 best-selling electric vehicles in the entire United States. It was Chevrolet's breakout hit, the car that was supposed to prove General Motors could go toe-to-toe with Tesla on affordability and range. Now, sales are down 41.4% for the year, and if you isolate the second quarter of 2026 specifically, the drop is a staggering 62%. Total first-half volume landed around 16,249 units, a fraction of what this vehicle was doing at its peak. What happened? Part of the story again traces back to the loss of federal purchase incentives, which hurt affordable EVs disproportionately because that credit represented a huge percentage of an already budget-conscious purchase. Part of the story is lingering consumer anxiety around General Motors software systems following some well-publicized early issues with sibling vehicles like the Blazer EV. And part of the story is internal cannibalization, with the Blazer EV competing for the exact same customer inside Chevrolet showrooms, splitting demand that used to flow entirely to the Equinox. Here is where it gets interesting for a smart shopper. The Equinox EV still starts in the mid-$30,000 range, and it still delivers well over 300 miles of range on its best trims, numbers that would have seemed impossible for this price point just a few years ago. And here is the truly telling detail. General Motors is already developing a next-generation version of this vehicle, targeting a launch around 2029. Think about what that actually signals. The company is essentially admitting the current version is underperforming expectations, and that admission is translating directly into discounts of $2,000 to $3,000 showing up on dealer lots right now, just to keep this generation moving before the next one arrives. Compared to a Tesla Model 3 at a similar price point, the Equinox offers considerably more interior space and a more traditional SUV shape that a lot of American families simply prefer, but it cannot match Tesla's supercharging network or brand prestige. The brutal verdict here is that this is a former sales champion now being quietly discounted into obscurity, and if you can look past the badge anxiety, you're looking at one of the most spacious, longest range EVs available for the money in the entire country. Number 4 on our list is the Lexus RZ. This is where the story shifts from mainstream affordability into full-blown luxury territory. And honestly, the numbers here are even more dramatic given the price bracket we are talking about. Sales of the Lexus RZ have been extremely weak throughout 2026. Weak enough that dealers are now offering an average discount of 12.5% off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. In real dollar terms, that works out to savings of more than $7,300 on a single vehicle. Inventory sits at around 58 days of supply, which sounds modest compared to some of the other vehicles on this list, but for a Lexus, a brand famous for tightly controlled inventory and minimal discounting, 58 days and a double-digit percentage discount is a very loud alarm bell. So why are luxury buyers avoiding this one? The first issue is brand perception. Lexus has spent decades building a reputation around hybrid powertrains, not fully electric vehicles, and shoppers walking into a Lexus showroom are, more often than not, still gravitating toward the hybrid SUVs the brand is famous for. The second issue is a genuine controversy around the steering system on certain trims. A yoke-style steering wheel that replaces the traditional round wheel, and plenty of test drivers have walked away uncomfortable with it. The third issue is simply range and price positioning relative to competitors, with buyers questioning whether they are getting enough electric-specific innovation to justify a $60,000 starting price. Here is the opportunity for a patient buyer. Underneath the styling debate, this is still a Lexus, which means legendary build quality, a famously comfortable and quiet cabin, and a reliability reputation that most competitors in this segment simply cannot match. Financing offers have appeared with interest rates as low as 0.99% annually on certain terms, and when you stack that promotional financing on top of the discount off sticker price, you are effectively looking at a $60,000 luxury electric SUV landing in your driveway for under $50,000. Compared against a Tesla Model Y, the RZ leans harder into traditional luxury cabin materials and a quieter ride, but it gives up some ground on software slickness and Tesla's charging network advantage. The brutal verdict here is that Lexus buyers are essentially punishing this vehicle for not being a hybrid, and in doing so, they are creating one of the most underrated luxury EV deals in the country for anyone willing to look past the badge expectations. Number 3 on our list is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. This is the point in our countdown where the numbers stop being uncomfortable and start being genuinely shocking. The Mustang Mach-E, a vehicle that borrowed one of the most iconic nameplates in American automotive history and slapped it onto an electric crossover, has seen sales collapse by 50.2% across the first half of 2026, and it gets worse from there. In July alone, sales fell by 64.9% compared to the same month the year before. Walk onto a Ford dealer lot right now, and you may find more than 5,863 Mustang Mach-E units sitting in inventory nationwide, quite literally gathering dust. Why is America turning its back on an electric Mustang? Part of the answer is the same story we keep repeating: the disappearance of federal incentives hitting demand across the board. But there are two more specific culprits here. First, Tesla's Model Y simply dominates this exact price and size category with a gravitational pull that very few competitors have managed to overcome, no matter how good the alternative actually is. Second, and this one is uniquely painful for Ford, there is a segment of traditional Mustang purists who view an electric crossover wearing the Mustang badge as something close to sacrilege, and that emotional rejection has quietly bled into broader sales resistance. On top of that, early software glitches and a handful of recalls in previous model years left a lingering trust issue that this generation has struggled to fully shake off. But here is the case for buying one anyway. This is a genuinely fun, dynamic vehicle to drive, with higher range trims pushing past 312 miles on a full charge, numbers that put it firmly in competition with far more expensive electric SUVs. Right now, buyers are finding roughly $1,600 in direct dealer discounts discount stacked with another $2,000 in manufacturer bonus cash, adding up to combined savings around $3,600 off the sticker price. With nearly 6,000 units sitting unsold across the country, you also have enormous leverage at the negotiating table, since dealers are far more motivated to move inventory than you are motivated to buy any single specific unit. Compared to the Tesla Model Y, the Mach-E offers arguably sportier handling dynamics and a more distinctive design, though it still trails Tesla in charging network convenience and resale value confidence. The brutal verdict here is this: an iconic American nameplate wrapped around a genuinely competent electric SUV is currently being rejected by the very market it was built to please. And that rejection has turned into one of the most negotiable deals on any Ford lot in the country. Number 2 on our list is the Honda Prologue. This is where the story shifts from simply weak sales into something more permanent and more dramatic. Honda has officially announced that the Prologue will be discontinued after the 2026 model year. This is not a rumor. This is not speculation. This is a confirmed end of the line for Honda's very first mainstream electric vehicle in the American market. And the sales collapse that led to this decision is staggering. Honda sold close to 40,000 units of the Prologue in 2025. In the first half of 2026 alone, that number fell all the way down to just 8,407 units, a drop of 49%. Demand did not just weaken, it fell off a cliff. And that collapse happened even before the discontinuation announcement made things worse. So what killed the Prologue? The single biggest factor is what we might call orphan vehicle anxiety. The Prologue was built in partnership with General Motors, riding on GM's Ultium electric platform rather than Honda's own from the ground up engineering. Once shoppers learned the vehicle was being discontinued, many became terrified of buying something that might struggle to hold value, might face uncertain long-term software support, or might become difficult to service down the road. Layer on top of that Honda's broader strategic pivot toward hybrid powertrains across its lineup, and you have a company that is essentially signaling it is stepping back from full electric vehicles in this segment, at least for now. Here is why that fear might be creating the single best deal on this entire list. Dealers are aggressively marking down remaining Prologue inventory, trying to clear stock before the calendar turns toward 2027. Because the vehicle shares its underlying platform and much of its technology with General Motors products, buyers are still getting the backing of 2 major automotive manufacturers rather than one, along with Honda's typically excellent dealer network for service and support. Range sits in a very respectable band between 270 and 300 miles depending on trim, more than enough for the vast majority of daily driving and even most road trips. The biggest risk, and we want to be honest with you here, is genuine uncertainty around long-term software updates and resale value for a discontinued model. So this is a car you buy expecting to keep for a long time rather than flip quickly. Compared to something like a Honda CR-V hybrid at a similar price point, the Prologue offers zero emissions driving and a quieter cabin experience, but the CR-V hybrid offers none of the range anxiety that still lingers for some buyers. The brutal verdict here is that Honda essentially built and then abandoned a genuinely competent electric SUV, and dealers are now desperate enough to hand it over at prices that make the discontinuation risk look increasingly worth taking. Which brings us to number 1, the most extreme case of rejection we found anywhere in the American electric vehicle market. Number 1 on our list is the Volkswagen ID.4. If every other vehicle on this list represents a warning sign, the ID.4 represents a 5-alarm fire. Nationally, Volkswagen is sitting on 147 days of supply, the highest inventory backlog of any major automotive brand in the entire country right now. And that national average actually hides an even uglier truth. In certain regional markets, market day supply for the ID.4 has stretched all the way up to 418 days. Let that sink in for a moment. There are brand new current model year Volkswagen ID.4s sitting on dealer lots that have been there for over a year, through every season, waiting for a buyer who has simply not shown up. To move that inventory, Volkswagen dealers have unleashed the deepest discounts on this entire list, averaging 28.5% off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. In real dollar terms, that translates to savings of more than $12,261 off a single vehicle. A car with a sticker price starting around $38,995 is, on average, actually selling for somewhere around $30,760 once real-world discounts are factored in. And on top of that, Volkswagen has been offering lease lease bonuses worth up to $6,000 for buyers who prefer to lease rather than finance. So what went so catastrophically wrong for a vehicle that was once genuinely respected? A vehicle that at one point even earned recognition as an electric vehicle of the year from major automotive publications. The brand perception problem is severe. Volkswagen has struggled for years to convince American buyers that it belongs in the same conversation as Tesla when it comes to electric vehicle credibility, and that battle is clearly not going well in 2026. Early production years of the ID.4 were also plagued by well-documented infotainment system glitches, touch-sensitive controls that frustrated owners, and software updates that took longer than expected to resolve the complaints. Combine that lingering trust deficit with the same federal incentive expiration hitting every vehicle on this list, and you get a perfect explanation for why Volkswagen showrooms across the country are drowning in unsold inventory. But here is the case for why this might genuinely be the single best electric vehicle deal in America right now. The ID.4 received meaningful updates for its current generation, including an upgraded electrical architecture supporting significantly faster charging speeds than earlier model years. Range on well-equipped trims sits comfortably between 275 and 300 miles, squarely competitive with anything else in this price bracket. Volkswagen still operates one of the largest and most established dealer networks in the country, meaning service and parts availability should not be a serious concern down the road. And once again, this same vehicle earned genuine critical praise when it first launched, meaning the engineering underneath all of this discounting has not actually gotten worse, only the market's perception of it has. The obvious risk is that with inventory this deep, discounts could theoretically get even steeper before they get better, and there is real uncertainty about how committed Volkswagen remains to its electric vehicle strategy in the American market long term. Compared directly to a Tesla Model Y at a similar post-discount price point, the ID.4 actually offers more usable range on certain trims, but it simply cannot compete with Tesla's charging network coverage or brand dominance among American EV shoppers. The brutal verdict here is unavoidable. This is the single clearest example in the entire country of a genuinely good electric vehicle being buried under inventory that dealerships are increasingly desperate to unload. And for the buyer willing to ignore the badge anxiety, it currently represents the widest gap between real product quality and rock-bottom real-world pricing anywhere in the American new car market. So let us step back and look at the bigger picture here, because this countdown is really about something larger than 6 individual vehicles. The American electric vehicle market in 2026 is not simply shrinking evenly across the board, it is splitting in two. On one side you have Tesla, whose Model Y alone accounts for something in the neighborhood of 37% of all electric vehicle sales in the entire country, an almost unbelievable level of market dominance for a single vehicle. On the other side, you have nearly every legacy automaker watching demand for their electric offerings evaporate, regardless of how good those vehicles actually are on paper or in real-world testing. That split is exactly what creates the opportunity we have been walking you through today. American buyers are not necessarily rejecting these 6 vehicles because of anything fundamentally wrong with the vehicles themselves. In most cases, they are rejecting them because of brand perception, because of the disappearance of federal financial incentives, because of lingering anxiety about buying into an electric future that suddenly feels less certain than it did a couple of years ago, and because Tesla has built a level of brand gravity that is extraordinarily difficult for any competitor to overcome. None of those reasons are really about whether the Kia EV6 charges quickly enough, or whether the Volkswagen ID.4 handles well on the highway, or whether the Lexus RZ delivers the comfortable ride you would expect from that badge. They are about fear, about incentives, and about the psychology of the marketplace, not about engineering. If you are actually in the market for a new electric vehicle heading into the rest of 2026, walking straight past these 6 options and defaulting to whatever feels like the safest, most obviously popular choice could genuinely mean overpaying by $5,000 to $12,000 compared to what an informed shopper could negotiate on one of these overlooked models. The riskiest choice on this list, a discontinued Honda Prologue built on borrowed platform architecture, might actually deliver the single biggest savings of the entire year for a buyer who understands and accepts that particular trade-off going in. So here's the real question this whole countdown boils down to. Is the American market rejecting these 6 vehicles for genuinely good reasons that every shopper should respect, or is a combination of fear, fashion, and Tesla's overwhelming dominance quietly creating one of the best buyer's markets for electric vehicles that this country has ever seen? We want to hear where you land on that question. If you could save more than $10,000 today on a brand new electric SUV, knowing full well that it is either a discontinued model or one sitting on a dealer lot with historically high inventory, would you take that deal? Or would you rather pay more for a Tesla just for the peace of mind that comes with the badge. Tell us in the comments which of these 6 vehicles would actually earn a spot in your garage, and just as importantly, tell us which one you would never buy no matter how deep the discount gets. Buy with your head, not the badge. Make sure to subscribe so you are never the last to find out what is really happening behind the showroom floor.